My name is Jim Wohlgemuth, and I am a veteran. And I belong to Veterans for Peace and Vietnam Veterans Against the War. Each day, members of those organizations and others, thank you very much, share our experiences and point out the militarism and the futility of war. Harvey, who's standing right back there, and I have a radio show, the Veterans for Peace Radio Hour, each Thursday at 1 p.m. on Radio Free Nashville, where we try to spread the word about American militarism, social justice, and war. So we are grateful to be here. Yesterday was Memorial Day, and I am sure each of us wished someone along the way, Happy Memorial Day. After all, Memorial Day is the day this country sets aside each year to open up the pool, go buy a car, find a new mattress, crank up the grill. We might have a parade, wave a flag, but do we remember and reflect on the cost of war? On Sunday, to his credit, my pastor, John McLean, at Unity of Nashville, called it out and asked, why is Memorial not a day to remember and reflect on the lives that are lost by all of those trying to make a better life and a better world? Yes. Why can't we remember more than just military losses? Why can't we remember teachers and firefighters and anyone who has sacrificed to make the world better? No, Memorial Day has become yet another day to celebrate militarism, to put out the bunting and wave a flag, to celebrate the linkage between capitalism and militarism and the American we know today. So let's consider militarism. Let's consider it. I'm sure you're aware, and we've heard some of the statistics here today, but almost as much as 60% of our discretionary budget goes to militarism. We are outspent. We outspend the next 9 countries combined on our military. We have 800 bases throughout the world. You know about the casualties of our wars of choice, the 37,000 in Korea, and the hundreds of thousands Koreans. You know about the 58,000 killed in my war, the Vietnam War, and the millions of Vietnamese that were killed and are still dying in Vietnam for the lingering residue of Agent Orange or the unexploded ordnance that litter the landscape. You know about the 6,000 Americans killed and more in Iraq and Afghanistan and the Middle East, and the upwards of 1 million more civilians killed there, and they just keep coming. You also know that the U.S. military budget has the biggest carbon footprint of any entity in the earth. Shame. And according to the Gallup poll of 2013, consider this, a Gallup poll in 2013 said we are considered the biggest threat to world peace. Can you imagine what it is today? Terrorism goes far deeper, and is far more pervasive in this culture than you would think. When I first wrote this speech, and I listed everything I could think of militarizing, and it was more than 20 minutes long, and I know Beth Foster would kill me if I talked that long. So I just boil it down to the high points. So let's consider a country being so wrapped in the flag that when young men take a knee to bring awareness to racial injustice, the incredibly ignorant media, politicians, and their minions turn it into a slam against the military. It's not a slam against the military, it's a slam against the culture. Let's consider a country where 2,000 JROTC programs in high schools across the USA teach kids like Nicholas Cruz, the Parkland killer, how to shoot. Consider that it is now more dangerous to be a teacher or a student than it is to be in the military. Yay! Consider that veterans are only 13%. This is what the military does to you folks. Consider that veterans are only 13% of the population, and yet they are involved in 1/3 of the mass shootings. Consider 2 years ago when the military occupied our own riverfront right down here as a $4 million taxpayer finance recruitment ploy right after that similar equipment showed up on the streets of Ferguson, and then later in Standing Rock, and then later on every border with ICE, and now at Montgomery Bell State Park. Shame! Consider that just down the road in Oak Ridge, Tennessee, we are spending trillions of dollars on the construction of a new nuclear arsenal that even the generals don't want. But guess what? Militarism wants it. The military-industrial complex wants it. Consider the misogyny, the homophobia, the Islamophobia, and the white supremacy generated by militarism. There are upwards of 10,000 sexual abuse cases filed each year in the military, and those are just the ones that are filed. Consider that the leading cause of PTSD in female veterans is military sexual trauma. Consider that almost 1/4 of all military people, all of them, report some sort of racial discrimination within their unit. Consider the suicides, 20+ veterans killing themselves each day because of the moral injury that they carry with them from what they did or what they saw. Consider our weapons of mass destruction industry as we see our man-made, our U.S.-made bombs dropping on Yemen and Syria while our drones patrol the skies across the Middle East and into Africa and right in our hometowns in the United States. And I could go on. But like Dr. King said, and he was so clear on what military has done, 51 years ago he said, and we repeat, a nation that continues year after year to spend more money on military defense than on programs of social uplift is approaching spiritual death. Yes. 51 years ago we were approaching. Right now we're teetering on the edge. He knew that militarism robs our children, our poor, our elderly, robs our schools, hospitals, infrastructures, and by our veterans. So what do? Well, Buffy St. Marie wrote a song a long time ago called Universal Soldier. Yeah. And she wrote it after crossing paths with soldiers on the way, at an airport on the way to and from Vietnam. In that song, she identifies the universal soldier, and she describes all the different soldiers, the different countries, and the different causes. But then she says this. But without him, how would Hitler have condemned him at Dachau? Without him, Caesar would have stood alone. He's the one who gives his body as the weapon of the war, and without him, this killing can't go on. He is the universal soldier, and he really is to blame. His orders come from far away no more. They come from him, and you, and me, and brothers, can't you see this is not a way to put an end to war? So let's try something. If we can keep kids from signing up, maybe they can't have their wars. Maybe. So I want each of you to take this little card produced by NOMI. I'll be passing it around. By NOMI. NOMI is the national network opposing the militarization of our youth. I want you to read it and share it. Share the information with friends. Then if you find someone who is considering the military, share it with them. I want you to share the idea of morality over the military. I want you to point out militarism when you see it. When you see it. And call it out when you can. Complain to your congressman. Complain to the media. Ask why the military budget is 10 times the budget of the VA. When you see a soldier or a veteran, say thank you for your, don't say thank you for your service. Say I'm grateful you are back and sorry you had to go and hope you don't have to go again. When you see a vet, tell him you are glad that he or she made it back and you are sorry he had to go, he or she had to go, and we hope that he's okay, or she. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe that as a nation we are teetering on spiritual death. I believe the cancer of honoring anything military has metastasized. Which of course would mean the end of our government of the people, by the people, and for the people. But I know, while there are people here like you, organizations like Veterans for Peace, Vietnam Veterans Against the War, About Face, Iraq Veterans Against the War, NOMI, the Peace and Justice Center, and many, many others. We will continue to press the idea of the harm of militarism that militarism brings to us, And so let us mourn. Let us mourn Memorial Day and fight the rest of the year. We have to. Our kids and our grandkids are depending on us. And remember, we are on the right side of history. Peace.